Mr. Cesar Indocil, an SFU student, will lead us in the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Please be seated. I declare the June 2009 Convocation assembled for the granting of degrees. Mr. President, members of the Board of Governors and Senate, faculty, honored guests, graduate, and friends, my name is Brant Louie, and I am the Chancellor of this university. This is our 44th annual Convocation, and we are delighted and honored to have in attendance today a number of distinguished guests on the platform and in the audience, including friends and colleagues of the university, representatives of our fellow educational institutions, the federal and provincial governments, and consular officials. A special welcome is given to Mr. Bill Sitske, MP for Burnaby Douglas, and Mr. Don Davies, MP for Vancouver Kingsway. I am pleased also to welcome our audience from around the world joining us via the internet through today's live webcast. Welcome to you all. This afternoon, an honorary doctorate of science will be conferred on James McEwen. Today is an important milestone. Today we gather to acknowledge and celebrate your efforts and achievements as you formally accept the credentials you have worked so hard to accomplish. Today marks the completion of an important leg in your life's journey and the start of another. It was the 19th century English clergyman Edwin Paxton Hood who advised, "Be as careful of the books you read as the company you keep, for your habits and character will be as much influenced by the former as by the latter." Today, as you stand with your fellow graduates, surrounded by the family, friends, and faculty who have supported and encouraged you on your journey, I am confident that you have good reason to be both proud of the books you have read and the company you have kept. Since opening its doors to its first 2,500 students in 1965, Simon Fraser has proved itself to be a world-class academic institution, earning a proud reputation for its bold initiatives, its willingness to take risks, and its unfailing commitment to the ideal that learning is a lifelong journey. Built on the foundation of values that celebrate discovery, diversity, and dialogue, it took on the motto, "Nous sommes prêts," we are ready. This bold statement of capacity and intent has held true for over 4 decades, and they are words that will carry us into the future. As you walk across the stage today, you carry with you the honor and pride of accomplishment that comes with earning your degree at one of Canada's most distinguished and respected universities. Simon Fraser was ranked as Canada's top comprehensive universities and as one of the best employers in the country in 2008. In 2008, we set new records for first-year enrollments with over 5,500 students, and in June last year, Christy Gerlich Fitzgerald crossed this convocation dais as this university's 100,000th graduate. Today it's your turn. We are ready, and thanks to your commitment and effort, you are ready. You are ready as individuals to fulfill your own unique destinies. You are ready as graduates of Simon Fraser University to join the global community of alumni who are pioneering new frontiers worldwide, working to find balance in shifting economies, battling climate change, and spearheading innovation to resolve global health issues. From North America to as far afield as Europe, Asia, and Australia, the contributions and success of our alumni continue to build the prestige and reputation of our university, and I am confident you will all do the same. As I was preparing for today, thinking about what would be the right message to share with you, those of you who are poised to take that next important step forward into the future, I considered the nature of the world in which you are graduating. Right now, we are experiencing a time of unprecedented upheavals and crisis on a global scale. The automotive industry is embattled. The financial sector is under siege. The environment is at risk. And there is political unrest and brinkmanship across the globe. And I was reminded of the old saying, may you live in interesting times. There is some disagreement as to whether this saying is intended to be a blessing or a curse. On the one hand, interesting times can be unstable, unpredictable, and dangerous. On the other hand, interesting times offers opportunity, challenge, and possibility. It was Sir Winston Churchill who observed, a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. So I encourage you to take the optimistic version of interesting times and seek out the unique opportunities that our current situation has to offer. It has been noted that during the more stable, predictable periods, society tends to be less willing to embrace change or challenge the status quo. But in times of crisis or upheaval, mankind has proven itself to be both resourceful and adaptable. And I believe that it is in interesting times that we encounter the most meaningful opportunities for reinvention and transition. I believe that it is in interesting times that we find the opportunity to be collaborative in our efforts against shared enemies and in meeting challenges. I believe that it is in interesting times that we shake the comfort of the status quo and explore alternatives for progress. And I believe that it is only in interesting times that we find ourselves in the circumstances that support innovation and evolution. As graduates, you are at the threshold of the next chapter in your own personal journey, and in many ways our global society is similarly poised on a threshold of change, transition, and reinvention. One of the most embattled industries is the automotive sector. These interesting times have seen the big three American automotive manufacturers buckle under the pressure of plummeting sales, increased global competition, and choking credit conditions. And while these circumstances were obviously contributing factors, industry analysts are proposing that the real reasons the wheels fell off had less to do with the economic stressors and more to do with the industry's failure to willingly adapt and respond to the changing needs and priorities of its consumers. I believe that what GM, Chrysler, and Ford all have in common is they got trapped in the short-term, profit-rich focus of the truck-based, fuel-inefficient, and environmentally insensitive SUV market. While highly profitable, this product focus failed to consider the growing demands for affordable, fuel-efficient, and environmentally friendly alternatives like those offered by Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and more recently, Hyundai and Kia. During the 1990s, while profits flowed, so did the labor concessions secured by the unions on behalf of their workers. Today, the legacy of these labor agreements have driven operating costs to the point that all three American car makers were struggling to compete against their value proposition of their global competitors. But even as the bailout money stops flowing and the dust settles, the opportunities for reinvention and innovation are unsurpassed. While the companies that supplied us with gas guzzlers SUVs built around a bigger is better marketing mantra may not survive intact, people still need to transport themselves and their goods across great distances. I believe that the next generation of leadership within this sector will effectively harness emerging technologies in the design and manufacture of their vehicles. I believe we will see a greater focus on alternative fuels and a greener, more sustainable product offering. I believe these interesting times will cause the next generation of automotive manufacturers to embrace the redefinition of personal and commercial transportation alternatives. Because, as Joseph Campbell once noted, opportunities to find deeper powers within ourselves comes when life seems most challenging. Now, I realize that even though these interesting times may well prove to be the catalyst for opportunity and reinvention in the future, the unprecedented scope of the global economic crisis we face still poses a real and immediate risk and is certainly a cause for concern. With the far-reaching potential for global economic collapse inherent in the current fragility of the world's financial system and economy, there is much speculation and debate on the potential impact of our immediate and longer-term future. When we find ourselves in uncharted territory like this, the familiar economic indicators and established trends upon which we have relied for over 3 generations are no longer reliable signposts as we navigate our course. People are increasingly anxious for the answers to important questions like when will this all end and is the worst still to come? So while no one without a crystal ball can claim to know the future, I want to offer my analysis and make some predictions. Firstly, and most importantly, I believe there is reason to be hopeful. While the peaks and valleys have consisted of record-breaking highs and unprecedented lows, the swings in the market still seem to be holding to established and predictable patterns. And within these patterns, we have seen evidence that the markets have shown signs of trying to correct themselves. At the end of the last quarter of 2008, we saw the market rally to about 15%, and then a mini recovery up until the end of February in the first quarter of this year. But by March, we saw that new lows were being tested. By the end of April, we had reason to be optimistic as we entered 9 weeks of an upswing. But at that time, it was still too early to predict whether this was the beginning of a sustained rally and recovery or the false dawn of a bear rally. And certainly at the time of my writing this speech, the markets revealed the upswings were holding its course. So what will it take to recover? At the moment, we are seeing U.S. housing markets bottom out in pricing, supply, and housing starts, with refinancing of existing mortgages being made available through newly nationalized banks. We can anticipate lower carrying costs of our mortgages. Lower housing costs, lower mortgage rates means there should be more disposable income in the hands of the consumer. And refinancing of existing mortgages through these nationalized banks should also see lower carrying costs of mortgages. I believe that the key to our economic recovery is consumer confidence, that we will rally from this crisis only when the consumer sees hope. Unfortunately, at the moment, all we see are bailouts. We don't see evidence of a plan for the future, only a reaction to the immediate crisis. And they are fearful, we are all fearful, that our governments are just throwing good money after bad. One of the most powerful influences on consumer confidence is the media. How the media reports on this crisis continues to be one of the most powerful influences on consumer opinion. While it seems to have improved slightly over the recent weeks, media appears to still have been broadcasting a message of panic and catastrophe. After all, we all know that good news doesn't sell newspapers. And so while people are watching TV and buying newspapers, they are being shortchanged because of the lack of access to objective and balanced reporting. And ironically, this situation is proving to be an example of be careful what you wish for. The doom and gloom scenario put out by the media may prove to be self-fulfilling prophecies. You see, the same news that sells newspapers also erodes consumer confidence and slows spending. This means that we are at an increased risk of talking ourselves into a deeper recession than is warranted. The deeper the recession, the less advertising money will flow to the media, and the less likelihood they will be able to survive their own lack of balanced reporting intact. Right now, current consumer confidence levels range from overly sensitive to bad, and while we've been talking about the recession for a while, we are just now starting to feel its impact. Industries affected have only just begun to lay off workers, but because we've been reading about the recession for months, we have reacted to the news in advance of the realities that may now be impacting us, our family, and our friends. On an optimistic note, however, I believe that at some point in the near future, consumer confidence will bottom out and then begin to rise as unemployment rates level off and begin to improve. With hindsight comes foresight. So what have we learned? We know that overzealous spending drove stock prices higher than their true value, and then fear and panic caused these same stocks to drop, in many cases well below their fair market value. So far, Canada seems to have weathered this economic storm relatively well compared to other countries. Our banking system, once criticized for its highly conservative regulatory framework, is now being held up as the poster child for banking reform. It is the same mantra of prudent fiscal management that will be needed to replace the pre-crisis levels of excess and impulsivity. So what does this mean to you? Well, you are our future. You represent our future. You are the economists and philosophers, scientists, poets, engineers, and entrepreneurs that will shape the next 50 to 60 years. You will be at the forefront of the reinvention and transformation that we will need to secure a prosperous future for the generations to come. These are interesting times, and they will require us to reinvent ourselves, especially for a resource-based economy like Canada, because our ability to move to recovery continues to be tied to the resource needs of other countries. We are relying on you to build capacity, process more of our own resources, and transform our economy. Over the next decade, we will have to transform ourselves, repositioning from supplying lumber to becoming an IKEA, from supplying oil to becoming a Shell, and from supplying clean, fresh water to Perrier. You will help us transcend our history as drawers of water, hewers of wood, and pumpers of oil. Barack Obama recently said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And you are that change. In 1966, 1 year after Simon Fraser University first opened its doors, Robert Kennedy gave a convocation address at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Kennedy, in his address, also made references to the quote about living in interesting times. So in closing, I thought I would share some of his message, which for different reasons I believe is as relevant to us today as it was back then. Robert Kennedy said, "Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also more often open to the creative energy of men than any other time in history. And everyone here will ultimately be judged, will ultimately judge himself on the efforts he has contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which his ideals and goals have shaped that effort." Again, my congratulations to you all, and thank you. And I call on the president of our university, Dr. Michael Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to add my warm welcome to SFU on this spectacular afternoon. We're delighted that so many of you have been able to join us to congratulate those graduating today. Members of the graduating class, let me add my congratulations to those of Chancellor Louis and add to his encouragement that you view the uncertainties of the present time with optimism, that you see this time of crisis as also a time of great opportunity. It is a time of great opportunity for those who have the creativity to make it so. Creativity will be required to produce the new technologies and public policies that will stimulate real and environmentally sustainable economic growth. Creativity will be required to moderate the social divisions and antagonisms based on heretofore increasingly unequal shares of income, and to provide for social security and critical public investments in health and education as we manage the massive public debts generated by this crisis. Creativity will be required to transcend the irreconcilable oppositions of religious fundamentalism and to produce global security in a multipolar world. If creativity in all these dimensions is required, where will it be found? Fortunately, the answer to that question is reasonably clear. Creativity will be found in urban communities like Greater Vancouver. In such communities, social diversity creates a tolerance of cultural and lifestyle difference, an openness to the creative fusion of alternative perspectives, a multilingual capacity to speak and to think across social and national boundaries, the imaginative capacity to think from other points of view, and the embrace of innovation in all things, whether in art and architecture, fashion and design, or business and commerce. Communities like Greater Vancouver are creative cities also because they are home to universities whose distinctive mission is to create new knowledge and to qualify students with the critical skills and research competencies that enable them to make original contributions to knowledge themselves. You are privileged to have been educated in one of the world's most vibrant creative cities, and you are graduating from one of the world's most exciting universities. At SFU, the commitment to innovation, creativity, and the embrace of bold initiative reflects the legacy of the radical university founded in the 1960s, and it is built into the very physical structure of this campus. You graduate today in Arthur Erickson's great Convocation Mall, flanked by the library, theater, and student services building. This mall is literally the crossroads of the campus, linking to the academic precincts behind. The integration of these facilities around the mall encourages interaction, conversation, and dialogue across disciplines and faculties that are siloed elsewhere in separated structures. And this integration stimulates SFU's unique tradition of interdisciplinary innovation in teaching and research. The centrality in Erickson's design of the library as a common space of learning, of student services, and of public spaces for ceremonial and cultural activity underlines SFU's commitment to extracurricular life, to learning and creativity beyond the classroom. Erickson's profound commitment to building that is open to and sympathetic to the natural environment reinforces our commitments to environmental sustainability. And Erickson created a supremely creative fusion of the multiple architectural vocabularies, Mayan, Mughal, Japanese, and classical Greek. And those global references reinforce our commitment to thinking of the world. We mourn the passing of Arthur Erickson a few days ago, but his great legacy lives on. And as graduates of SFU, I hope that you will cherish his commitments to innovation and creativity, to the building of truly livable communities, and to a profound respect for the natural world which sustains us. I know that if you do, your lives will be enriched, and we can look forward to the future with optimism. On behalf of all of us at SFU, congratulations on your achievements today, and our very best wishes for your future success and happiness. Congratulations to you all.
The honorary degree will now be conferred. Mr. President, will you present the honorary degree candidate, James McEwen?
Mr. Chancellor, Dr. James McEwen is a world-renowned biomedical engineer whose talent for technological innovation, combined with an entrepreneurial spirit and a profound commitment to the public good, has brought great benefit to British Columbia. He earned a PhD in electrical engineering at the University of British Columbia and began his remarkable career at Vancouver General Hospital, where he founded and served as director of the Biomedical Engineering Department. Realizing that electronic technologies could improve many medical devices, He formed his first company, Western Clinical Engineering Limited, and subsequently invented a revolutionary microprocessor-controlled automatic tourniquet system, now used daily in thousands of surgical procedures worldwide. And this was but the beginning. James McEwen holds 160 patents for a wide variety of medical devices. As a result of the success of his surgical tourniquet-related inventions, he was awarded the Principal Award for Innovation from the Ernest C. Manning Awards Foundation. With the greatest respect and affection, peers call James McEwen the grandfather of bioengineering, of the bioengineering industry in BC. He has not only founded several companies, but has also graciously shared his knowledge and experience with others. He led the creation of the Medical Device Development Center, a not-for-profit center that encourages the collaborative development of new medical technology. And to help other researchers realize their dreams, he has been a generous investor in new medical technology companies. His goodwill has also touched the broader community. When he was president of the ALS Society of British Columbia, he initiated an unusual design competition to improve the quality of life of those living with Lou Gehrig's disease. He has also established numerous scholarships to provide educational opportunities to those who might not otherwise have them. And as an adjunct professor at the University of British Columbia, he has monitored graduate students for more than 20 years. And as an adjunct professor in our own School of Engineering, he has given us the benefit of his insight for more than 2 decades. Indeed, our new biomedical engineering program traces its origins to his sage advice. More recently, he chaired the advisory committee for the Faculty of Applied Sciences and again generously shared a wealth of industrial and administrative experience. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of this university, I ask that you now confer upon Dr. James McEwen the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa.
James McEwen, by the virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of this university, I hereby admit you to the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa. Dr. McEwen will be hooded by Dr. Bill Crane, Associate Vice President, Academics, and Ms. Kate Ross, Registrar.
Congratulations to you. It is with pleasure that I now call on Dr. James McEwen for his convocation address.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chancellor and Mr. President and honored guests and graduands, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be awarded this degree here today. To you graduating today, I know you've worked very hard to earn your degrees over many years, but I hope you can take some comfort when you realize it's taken me 35 years to get this one. I'm especially honored that many of today's graduates are from applied sciences, including engineering and kinesiology, and from education. I'm told that I can say a few things to you today, but I've also been told that the best speech is one with a good beginning, a good ending, and not much in between. So my message today is a simple one. It's about what might await you after graduation if you remain curious and keep learning, if you take every opportunity to be creative, and especially if you always try to do what you love and love what you do. Some of you may have heard of Jean Piaget, a Swiss psychologist who really studied childhood learning and intelligence in education. He said, and I quote, "The principal goal of education is to create people who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. People who are creative, inventive, and discoverers." I hope that your education at Simon Fraser University has prepared you to do just that, to be individuals who are creative, who are inventive, and who are discoverers, just like Simon Fraser himself, and just like Arthur Erickson, the man who created this physical space around us today. It was mentioned that I'm a biomedical engineer and one of the first ones in this part of the world. I've even been called the grandfather of biomedical engineering. I guess that's true. I certainly am a grandfather, but I still feel like a student at heart, trying to always learn, trying to still be creative. Biomedical engineers, for those of you who don't know, apply our knowledge, our talent, and our ingenuity to meet needs that will improve healthcare. That's what we do. I could have retired, whatever that means, many years ago before I was 40 as a result of some good luck and some good successes, but I chose not to. I still love what I do every day. My life as a biomedical engineer actually began when I was 6 years old. That's when my father got polio. He was only 30 years old and I was 6. So I saw my father hover between life and death for several weeks, paralyzed in an iron lung. And for those of you who don't know, an iron lung is kind of a pressurized cylinder that contains the entire body with just the head sticking out. And it breathes for you, and it breathed for him. It kept him breathing, kept him alive, while the disease of polio raged on. Well, his life was saved by an innovative medical device of the 1950s, the iron lung. After a year, he left hospital. Yes, he was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, but he was able to resume an active, productive life as a father, as a machinist, and as an electronics enthusiast and my mentor. In fact, many years later, when I was in my 30s, he worked with me and helped me create some of the medical devices for which I am being honored today. So for today's ceremony, I asked that some of my most influential teachers be invited to join me to share the honor. For example, my very first teacher, my grade 1 teacher, is here with me today, Isabel Rose. Now, I have to say that's partly to show you that I'm not as old as you probably think I am. But as a new teacher, pretty much fresh out of school, she reinforced for me in school what my mother had been telling me all along. So while my father was struggling away in an iron lung in the hospital, she was the first one to show me the wonderful, incredible opportunities that a good education can provide. So thank you. My very first science teacher is here today too, Harold Bombrough. He created a lifelong interest by encouraging me to be inventive and to ask questions, to challenge conventional thinking. even his. He once expelled me from the science club for being a bit too inventive, but that's okay, I'm almost over it now. Another of my most influential teachers, Mac Ikuda, is here too, a high school teacher, and he showed me by his actions the human side of science and education. He encouraged us always to ask why not? He showed me that we must always try to discover our own unique passions and talents and pursue them to help others. These important lessons in life were reinforced by my very first professor in electrical engineering, Michael Davis, who's become a lifelong role model and friend and is here today. And if you remember nothing about my teachers, if you remember nothing else, remember this. They're all here today, so I can't possibly be as old as you think. And another thing about an honorary degree, the accomplishments that led to this award are really the accomplishments of many teachers, professional colleagues, lifelong friends, and a supportive family. In a very special way, you are honoring them today, too. Well, it was mentioned that I have over 160 patents for new medical inventions, and that's true, yes. Some of them never resulted in commercial products. Others were well ahead of their time. But fortunately, some have been successful, far more successful than I ever imagined. A good example that was mentioned is the surgical tourniquet. This all started when I was a biomedical engineer at the Vancouver General Hospital. I investigated an unexpected accident in surgery. A young woman came out of surgery with a paralyzed arm. Now that shouldn't have happened because she was only going in to have a fracture repaired. I found that a tourniquet had been used. Well, I didn't know what tourniquets were. That was a big problem. But I started asking questions. I was curious. I discovered that tourniquets of the time were all mechanical, but my background was electrical engineering. Well, that was another problem. It might have been a problem, but I thought, perhaps it also presents an opportunity to do something different. I asked more questions. Well, I learned that tourniquets were used all over the world, thousands of times a day, to stop blood flow into an arm or a leg when surgery is done. And I learned that they allow surgery to be done in a bloodless field, a clear, dry field, so it makes the surgery more accurate, more precise, better quality. They minimize the need for blood transfusions and minimize blood loss. They can be used for up to 10 hours, like with no blood in an arm or a leg. But everybody of the day knew, well, tourniquets were unreliable, they were inaccurate, and they were unsafe. Everybody knew they caused injuries, they were unavoidable. Everybody knew the injuries could be quite serious. Everyone accepted that, but I didn't. My intuition, my education, and my curiosity told me I could probably create something better. I suspected with a little luck, I could create something that would completely get around all of the problems that everybody saw at the time. And of course, luck played a big role. After all, I was born in the year the transistor was invented. I graduated in electrical engineering the year the microprocessor was invented. And I got my PhD in biomedical engineering in the year that the first microcomputer was introduced. So there was luck, a lot of help from many people, and a great education. But I was also able to recognize when I was in the right place at the right time. And I did have an opportunity to change the world, to be creative, and to make a little bit of a positive influence on other people's lives. I did, and I'm not done yet. My first patent was filed in 1980, and my last was filed 2 months ago. So without you knowing it, I've probably affected your lives. Just ask yourself, have you ever had surgery on an arm or a leg, or anybody in your family? Has anyone in your family ever had an arthritic joint replaced? Do you know of any baby born with a club foot? Have you ever had arthroscopy for a sports injury? How about any surgery on a hand or a foot or an ankle? Do Do you know anyone who's had trauma surgery? Do you know anybody in the military in Iraq or Afghanistan? Today, in more than 40 countries around the world, the innovation I created is used more than 15,000 times a day to help improve surgical safety, to help improve surgical quality, and generally improve the quality of life. So as it turned out, my father's polio and an unexpected surgical accident years later led to an exciting, fulfilling career for me. I'm sure that each of you graduating today will face your own unexpected problems in your careers. But some of those unexpected problems may in fact be great opportunities for you. Opportunities for change, opportunities for improvement, opportunities to help others. So my advice is simple. Remember the words of John Piaget, who said, "The principal goal of education is to create people who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. People who are creative, inventive, and discoverers." I trust that your new degree from Simon Fraser University will allow you to do just that as you begin your exciting new careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McEwen. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of this ceremony, the Alumni Association will present a Simon Fraser University alumni pin to the graduates as they leave the stage. On this occasion, the pin will be presented by Mr. Kevin Strange, who graduated from the School of Engineering Science with a Bachelor of Science in 1992 and a Master of Science degree in 1996. Kevin Strange has built a career based on biomedical engineering and medical devices in BC. He has helped to develop and commercialize numerous medical technologies and devices for a number of small companies, which include NeuroStream Technologies, an SFU spin-off. Mr. Strange is committed to the success of the medical device community and contributes to collaborations between private sector companies, educational institutions, and industry associations. I invite Mr. Strange to the podium to bring greetings to the graduates.
Thank you. On behalf of the Alumni Association, it is my privilege and pleasure to congratulate you all on your graduation. Today, as you begin your lives as members of the alumni community, you join over 100,000 SFU graduates worldwide. As you cross this stage, I'll be presenting you with an alumni pin. I encourage you to wear it proudly as a symbol of your achievement and your alumni status. Wherever life takes you in the future, we hope that you will keep your SFU spirit alive and well, and that you will stay connected with your alma mater and your fellow alumni. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strange. Before the graduates are presented individually to the Chancellor, Ms. Jennifer Clune, a member of the graduating class, will address Convocation. While studying kinesiology at SFU, Jennifer Clune has contributed to the campus community through her roles as the Burnaby Campus Orientation Assistant, peer health educator, and a mentor for new students and volunteers. She's been on the Dean's Honor Roll and has completed SFU's LEAD Certificate for Innovative Leadership. Ms. Clune plans to pursue a career in medicine. She graduates with a Bachelor of Science degree and a certificate in health fitness. It is a pleasure to call on Jennifer Clune.
Thank you, President Stevenson. Mr. Chancellor. Good afternoon, family and friends, distinguished guests, professors, and my fellow graduands. And welcome as well to everyone joining us via the webcast. We wish you were here and are jealous you are watching with air conditioning. Thank you to the distinguished panel behind me. Your presence here today signifies the importance of this event. Thank you to the staff and student services, Ceremonies and Events, Facilities Management, and LIDC for transforming the Convo Mall into a beautiful venue for a ceremony. Thanks for checking the pronunciation of our names, for pinning our hoods and fixing our hats. Like today, much of your work occurs behind the scenes, touching every aspect of our university careers, and we appreciate it. On a more personal note, I want to say a very, very sincere thank you to the staff in student development. You've changed my life forever. Thank you for challenging me, laughing with me, and for giving me all the McFog the Dog swag and free t-shirts a girl could want. Thanks to our professors, teaching assistants, lab instructors, who inspired us with their passion and annoyed us on Monday morning when they demanded we learn something at 8:30 a.m. Thanks for making us play Who Wants to Be a Physiologist, for teaching us how to use engineering knowledge for good instead of evil, and for showing us that education is important in its entirety and that it's about more than just formal curricula. Thanks to our family and friends who bragged about us, financially supported us, and occasionally lit a fire under us to ensure we turned off the television and achieved what we sometimes didn't think was possible. Thanks to my fellow graduands. You are an incredibly attractive group of people. Thanks for the comic relief, for joining me in the pub after lecture, and for finding out that after a 2-day lab, your yield was also mostly filter paper. I always felt relieved knowing it wasn't only me who totally botched a lab, struggled with the physics homework, or hadn't started on my dissertation. Although this degree is an individual accomplishment, I discovered there is a reassuring comfort found in knowing other people are suffering and procrastinating too. I also learned that if you go to school on a mountain, snow tires are a must. And to all future SFU students, if it's raining down the hill, it's snowing up here. I learned to focus on the bigger picture, realizing finally in my last semester that a failed midterm or an A+ essay will only be a drop in the bucket of my GPA. And so too are the most horrible and wonderful moments of life, only a small thing in the grand scheme of experience. I learned Arthur Erickson was right when he said, "Concrete is the marble of the 21st century," and ours is some pretty hot award-winning concrete. I learned the best way to do well in life and in calculus is to find 2 great friends, give yourselves a fun nickname like Team All-Star, and take 3 times longer than necessary to do your homework because of the excessive lattes and laughter. The most important lesson that I learned here, though, is that expectations are everywhere. They can be self-induced, situational, or imposed by others, but they can be pitfalls of self-doubt and fear. Have you picked a major? What will you do after graduation? How do you plan to use your degree? These questions build a post-graduation black hole in which we no longer have an education roadmap to follow. Now, expectations are not all bad. They motivate us, and I know most people here strive to meet high expectations. So go on, achieve your goals, and rise to the challenges ahead. And if you know with 100% certainty where you are going and what lays before you, Godspeed and all the best. But if you're like me, and the future seems just a little intimidating, the job market a little rocky, and the prospect of no longer being shielded by the phrase, "I'm a student," kind of overwhelming, well, at least you're not alone. We have always been in this together, whether we realized it or not, and that doesn't end now. Now we join 100,000 students who went before us, people united by common experiences, such as going to the SFU Surrey Library with the very best intentions, but instead ending up playing Wii with friends for hours. People who spent hours in first year looking for the fourth floor of the AQ. Or who know, just like we do, that Steamworks is the unofficial campus pub of SFU Vancouver. Personally, I know I can conquer anything after surviving 4 hours in my car one January in a barely controlled slide down Burnaby Mountain. Unable to get down any further, running low on gas and self-control, I found myself turning around and going back up the mountain. Those of you who were also trapped here that day might remember the party-like atmosphere. As guitars appeared, the pubs stayed open later, and people embraced our hippie heritage. So if amid a snowstorm, with the prospect of sleeping in the gym looming, SFU students can still laugh and grab a bite together, I think it means we can handle a little transition and uncertainty too. So let's do it. Let's walk boldly where over 40 years of students have walked before. Let's graduate from SFU and kick some ass. But before we seek out PhD programs, illustrious jobs, and leadership positions in society, before we shake up the expectations laid out before us and truly chase our dreams, let's take a moment to celebrate the journey, our accomplishments, and the freedom from homework we find today. If I could leave you with one final thought, it would be that it's okay to be a little scared and a lot excited, because whatever the future holds, new some pray. Congratulations on looking so great in those hats and on finishing your degree from SFU.
Thank you, Ms. Clune. The members of the graduating class will now be presented to the Chancellor en masse to be admitted to their degrees. Will the graduates please rise? Mr. Chancellor, I present to you these scholars who have fulfilled the statutory requirements laid down by the Senate of the University, and I request that you confer upon each one the degree for which he or she is now recommended.
By virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of this university, I hereby admit you to your various and several degrees. Would the graduates please be seated?
Ladies and gentlemen, the members of the graduating class will now be presented individually to the Chancellor. But just a few requests before we get underway. First, would you please refrain from applauding individual members of the graduating class until each group of degrees has been conferred. This does not forbid spontaneous expressions of enthusiasm. As a courtesy to others, would you please remain seated until the conclusion of the ceremony? And would the graduates please return to your seats following receipt of your degrees? The degrees in the Faculty of Education and the Faculty of Applied Sciences will now be conferred. Mr. Chancellor, the Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. Wade Parkhouse, will announce the names of the candidates for graduate degrees.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree, Doctor of Philosophy, in the Faculty of Education. The candidates will be hooded by Dr. Diane Dagnius, Acting Dean of the Faculty of Education. The first candidate for the degree, Doctor of Philosophy, is the recipient of the Dean of Graduate Studies Convocation Medal in the Faculty of Education. I ask Dr. Amy Mamelot to join me, please. Dr. Mamelot's doctoral research focused on theory and methodologies in mathematics education. Dr. Mamelot completed both a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Mathematics. During these degrees, she became concerned about how few students go on to take math in second-year university. And because of this concern, she chose to complete her PhD in education. In her dissertation, Amy used geometry and well-known paradoxes in order to explore students' ideas about the notion of infinity. During her degree, which she completed in only 3 1/3 years, remember most people take 4, 5, 6, 7, she published 2 papers and gave 6 conference presentations at national and international meetings. In addition to her research, her teaching also receives praise because of her ability to provide different approaches to topics and concepts that are perceived to be difficult. Dr. Mamelot is currently a postdoctoral fellow at York University, and while most of you will be celebrating tonight, Amy will be flying overnight to get back to Toronto so she can attend a conference in the morning. On behalf of Simon Fraser University, I am pleased to present Dr. Mamelot with the Dean of Graduate Studies Convocation Medal in the Faculty of Education. Mr. Chancellor, I now continue with the presentation of candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in the Faculty of Education. Dr. Aldona Bazinskas. Dr. Bazinskas completed her degree under the supervision of Dr. Rena Zakis. Dr. Ann Cheslowski. Dr. Cheslowski completed her degree under the direction of Senior Supervisor, Dr. Mark Fettis. Dr. Barbara Harris. Dr. Harris completed her degree under the direction of Senior Supervisor, Dr. Colleen Toohey. Dr. Jillian Judson. Dr. Judson completed her degree under the direction of her senior supervisor, Dr. Sean Blankensop. Dr. Shabnam Kavasia. Dr. Kavasia completed her degree under the senior supervisor, under direction of the senior supervisor, Dr. Rena Zakis. Dr. Karen Patricia Kruniak. Dr. Kruniak completed her supervision under the supervision of Dr. Lucy Lemaire. Dr. Michael LaVue. Dr. LeView's senior supervisor was Dr. Jack Martin. Dr. Karine McCauken. Dr. McCauken's senior supervisor was Dr. Cheryl Admonson. Dr. Rhonda Joy Philpott. Dr. Philpott's senior supervisor was Dr. Diane Desjardins. Who just hooded her. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree Doctor of Education in the Faculty of Education. Dr. Heather Friesen. Dr. Friesen completed her degree under the supervision of Dr. Milton McLaren. Congratulations, Pat. Dr. Pat Hibbets. Dr. Hibbets completed her degree under the senior supervisor, Dr. Michelle Schmidt. Dr. Hibbets is the Vice President of Finance at Fraser University. Dr. Lynn Rosemary Jakes. Dr. Jakes completed her degree under the supervision of Dr. Sharon Ballin. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. The candidates will be hooded by Dr. John Jones, Acting Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences. Dr. Yaifeng Huang. Dr. Huang completed his degree in engineering science, and his senior supervisor was Dr. Kamal Gupta. Dr. Amir Nirmad, also from engineering science, Dr. Nirmad completed his degree under the supervision of Dr. Mehrdad Saif. Dr. Bradley Zarakoff. Dr. Zarakoff completed his degree also in engineering science under the direction of Dr. Jim Cavers. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Applied Science in the Faculty of Applied Science. Chang Deng. Vidya Kudracha. Andy Kwok Homa. Hold on to that hat. Help you out. Mandana Salija. Goikwan Sun. Xu Wang. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Arts in the Faculty of Education. Robert Douglas Clark. Karen McKinley Kernidy. Shauna McPherson. Anita Lee Moore. Nisha Parhar. Michelle Serdanovic. Monica Tang. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree Master of Education in the Faculty of Education. Zhu Bai. Shane Bilodeau. Karen Blackburn. Rebecca Boudreau. Shi Chen. Silong Chen. Colin Michael Chow. Robert Dahlman. Yiran Dong. Sylvia Eisma. Todd William Foxcroft. Jennifer Galvin. Bing Han. Xing Han. Lu Han. Catherine Hanna. Ryan Holliday. Jessica Hurechka. Yi Huang. Krista Dana Jones. Tina Camimiras. Yunjit Kang. Ross Kennedy. Carol Knee. Nancy Latta. Zhu Mai Lai. Yin Li. Lin Lin. Adrian Lipset. Cameron Little. Deborah Ann Morello. Malgorzata Mart. Marianne McLeod. John Moore. Marlene Nelson. Beverly Ng. Zendanovi. Peter Nuji. Carolyn Peterson. Carrie Peters. Laurel Parasol. Sunita Poon. Tao Kuo. Shannon Marie Quelch. Kaljit Samar. Lan Sheng. Carrie Sleep. Kevin Staley. Kelsey Schneck. Hui Tan. Nicole Vanderwall. Christina Weigel. Kelly White. Shuting Xu. Jijing Ying. Ming Yu. Jing Zhang. Shenzhen Zhang. Shizan Zhu.
Mr. Chancellor, the Acting Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences, Dr. John Jones, will announce the names of the candidates for undergraduate degrees in his faculty.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour of presenting the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. The first candidate is the recipient of the Dean's Convocation Medal for Undergraduate Studies in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. I ask Paul Carrière to come forward. Paul has an outstanding academic record. Since joining Simon Fraser University in fall 2003, the great majority of his grades have been either A or A+, and his current grade point average is 4.16. Since December 2003, he has been on the Dean's Honour Roll. Paul has broadened his academic education by taking a series of challenging co-op jobs, including 8 months with D-Wave, designers of the world's first practical quantum computer, and an extended research project with Dr. Brune of SFU Physics. In these placements, Paul was able to make significant contributions to real-world engineering projects. His work at D-Wave and his report of that work for Co-op earned him the SFU Co-op Student of the Year Award, the ACE BC Yukon Co-op Student of the Year Award, and special recognition from CAFCI, the National Co-op Organization. Paul has devoted a great deal of his time at SFU to volunteer work for Engineers Without Borders, an international organization that sends young engineers to work in developing countries. He has organized dozens of presentations to local Rotary and Lions clubs, raising over $7,000 for Engineers Without Borders overseas program. Engineers Without Borders recognized his efforts in 2006 with a Chapter Volunteer of the Year Award. And in the following year, he received the GE Canada Community Leadership Award. Paul is a student who has enthusiastically made the most of the educational experience that SFU has to offer, and has already begun paying back that experience with service to the Canadian research community and the international development community. His activities have brought credit to SFU, and I expect that they will continue to do so over a long and productive research career. Paul, in recognition of your outstanding academic achievements, it is an honor to present you the Dean's Convocation Medal for Undergraduate Studies in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the honour of presenting the remaining candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Applied Sciences in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. Patrick Beaulieu. Zachary Blair. King Yuen Austin Chan. Lok Yin Chow. Aydin Mirsaidi. Dayush Saheb Javeher. Caroline Chen. Brian Chung. Jason Cho, Kevin Chanel, Rusty Clarkson, Izan Dalazade, David de Graaf, Juan Pablo Diaz Tellez, Curtis Gittens, Ryan Goldade, Donovan Ho Sui, Boris Ho, Robert Huba, Tai-Hoon Kim, Alex Kung, Heng Wai Lan, Alan Lau, Graham Laverty, Seun Lee, Owen Lin, Carlin Loncarrick, David McLeod, Eric Matthews, Craig McLaughlin, Johannes Miner, Wagwang Mu, Johnny Park, Julio Perez de Leon, Freya Santos, Brian Shoko, Iman Shasavani, Wook Sun Shim, Noreen Sikda, Derek Sullivan, Jill Steele, Jessica Tang, Su Xian Tang, Joan Thomas, Jeffrey Wong, Simon Wong, Cheng Wu, Shuji Yang, Huachuan Yao, Yen Ye, Mai Yang, Saeed Amir Zaidi, Kei Zhang, Xiong Zhu, Yuan Hong Kang, Mr. Chancellor, I now have the honour of presenting the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science, Kinesiology in the Faculty of Applied Sciences. Marina Abramsky. Jae Hyun An. Livia Antalova. Baram Badri, Daniel Birch, Emily Burgoyne, Rachel Butcher, Duncan Chan, Henry Chan, Catherine Chan, Zenobia Chan, Tara Chan, Jennifer Chow, Kim Chima, Bernice Yikyu Chiu, Jennifer Clune, Nicole Coffey, Trina Cooper, Candace Cormier, Tony Da Silva, Angus Deng, Ruby Daliwal, Sunny Dillon, Miranda Dick, Lisa Diep, Leo Duncan, Alison Epp, Ji Zhang Fang, Q Mai Feng, Sarah Flello, Lindsay Flumefelt, Catherine Ford, Eric Fung, Denise Galuscula, Christopher Gilman, Stuart Good, Rebecca Hartley, Jeffrey Howe, Sarah Hearn, Steve Hoffman, Sheila Horvath, Andrew Jameson, Kerry Jang, Benjamin Jong, Erin Castelline, Owen Ketera Pacheco, David Krawczyk, Colin Kruger, Evelyn Lau, Janice Lau, David Lee, Crystal Lee, Vanya Lentz, Shauna Lum, Yvonne Lynch, Lovedeep Malhi, Caitlin McGregor, Laura Mirot, Mandeep Nahal, Viara Nikolova, Danica Awades, Rosalie Pham, Hilary Yi Yan Pong, Lai Yung Poon, Crystal Priebe, Janine Pitts, Nathan Kwan, Anik Riendo, Heather Reese, Jonathan Roberts, Inderjeet Sahota, Jacqueline Santos, Catherine Shalesny, Barak Shulman, Misha Stopkowski. Osik Daniel Su. Kyle Todorok. Braden Tonongai. Elaine Tung. Kylian Webb. Monica Werner. Elsa Wong. Philip Yang. Teresa Yao.
Mr. Chancellor, the Acting Dean of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Diane Desgenais, will announce the names of the candidates for undergraduate degrees in her faculty.
Mr. Chancellor, the recipient of the Dean's Convocation Medal for Undergraduate Studies in the Faculty of Education is Ms. Greta Vischer. Ms. Vischer regrets she is unable to be present. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the honor of presenting the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Education in the Faculty of Education. Allison Atkinson. Anupreet Bal. Mera Besic. Jacinta Barachia. Alana Busquet. Radeep Brar. Aaron Bullitt. Brian Bucci. Megan Burns. Maria Chula. Shinshin Jessner. Sherelle Drellu. Denise Drummond. Mika Maria Ford. Pam Gackle. Karina Guardian. Dana Gold. Megan Goldfinch. Tia Guglielmucci. Navdeep Jagpal. Jaminder Kang. Can you say your name? Adam Kavanaugh. Serena Key. Eileen Coe. Julie Koch. Tracy Lay. Holly Lambie. Marissa Jordan Lawton. Christopher Lee. Sheikh Leung. Melody Lee. Juliana Ludwinowski. Anders Lund. Megan Lyons. Danielle Lynn Matter. Jacob Main. Josie Mayo. Catherine Martins. Kim Matson. Catherine McEwen. Kelly Mitchell. Hamida Mohammadi. Karen Moon. Kelly Moreo. Dean Nakashima, Melanie Newell, Crystal Pack, Cooper Peck. Thank you. Do you see your name? Darshini Pereira, Sabina Plaswitz, Leslie Plummer, Muriel Roberts, Nicole Sadnow, Jasmine Sangha, Manvinder Sangha, Bonnie Joanne Schultz-Lorenzen, Kimberly Scott, Jasveer Second, Kavita Sirwooten, Amanda Shipley, Lindsay Schuster, how do you say it? Kameljit Sidhu, Jasmel Sehota, Christine C., Charlene Statham, Cheryl Stewart, Brianna Strachan, Victoria Vaillancourt, Christy Vallely, Courtney Van Dyke, Melanie Wells, Jessica Williamson. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the honor of presenting the candidates for the graduate diplomas in the Faculty of Education. Whoops. Janice Kramer. Derek Imai. Carol Todd. Lynn Wainwright. Davinder Dillon. Anita Gained. Sarabjit Gill. Rupinder Gill. Okay. I don't know what he means. Whoops. Mr. Chancellor? Oh, the same one. Okay. Ivana Godekova. Harpreet Gruel. Patricia Muravezi. Ramajit Punia. Jaspreet Sethi. Tajinder Sidhu. Jasanti Basantu. Okay, thank you very much.
Will the graduating class please rise? I congratulate each of you on the completion of your degree, which is an impressive achievement, and I ask your friends and family, faculty and staff to join me in congratulating the graduating class of 2009. And now I invite you, the members of the graduating class, to reciprocate by applauding your family and friends, faculty and staff, all who have helped you achieve this goal. Thank you. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, this completes the formal awarding of degrees. Some candidates recommended by the Senate for degrees today are unable to be present and their names have therefore not been read out. I now admit them to the appropriate degrees as shown on the program. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here on the Hill today to help us celebrate a very important part of graduation. And to the volunteer staff and faculty members coordinated by Student Services and the Ceremonies and Events offices who have helped run such a smooth Convocation Day. And to the members of our 5-time world champion Simon Fraser University Pipe Band Organization for their very special contribution to Convocation. They will perform after the ceremony in Freedom Square, which is directly behind the platform. This now brings a close to the formal part of this afternoon's convocation, and I ask you please to rise and remain standing until the platform party has recessed. Thank you.